So I want to welcome you to the Girls in STEM session. I'm Dale McCready, Vice President of Audience and Community Engagement at Discovery Center at Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Discovery Center is also the proud lead for the Tennessee Girls Collaborative, which is our sponsor today, and is also the founder of the 4th Annual Tennessee STEAM Festival, which this event is also a part of. So thank you for being here and being part of today. Before we get started, I want to do a few housekeeping items. Thank you all for changing your names to first names. We will be recording this session. This will be for promotional purposes on social media and also for both the STEAM Festival and Tennessee Girls Collaborative. So want to make sure that we just have that information. During the panel, I'll ask you all to mute. We'll have just the panelists speaking for a while. They'll do an introduction. Then I have some questions that are a pool of questions that I've generated and that have also come from the registration. So I want to, we'll ask some of those questions. And then I'll also try to monitor the chat and get any questions you have along the way. So as you go, please feel free to add your questions to the chat area. Thank you so much. That'll be awesome. As background, the Tennessee Girls Collaborative is part of the National Girls Collaborative. The National Girls Collaborative, NGCP, was started about 17 years ago, and the NGCP has aspired to bring together organizations committed to informing and encouraging girls to pursue careers in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, as you all know. Tennessee is one of 41 states that are involved in this national collaboration. And we aspire to really encourage new ways of thinking, creating innovative solutions, and building a strong and diverse STEM workforce in Tennessee. So excited to have you here and hope you'll also friend us as we go forward with our social media for the Tennessee Girls Collaborative. Today we have some incredible young women from around the country, some of whom serve on the National Girls Collaborative Advisory Board, and some who are here in Tennessee. I've asked each of them to share for a minute or two or three, a little bit about themselves, their grade, if they're in high school, or their year in college, where they're located, a special hobby or interest, and a brief description of their STEM interests, passions, or even a transformative moment. A little bit open, but just a little bit of some time to let you get to know them. So we're really excited to have them here, and they have been just so, admitting someone. They've been so wonderful to agree to do this panel. So let's start out. I think I'll start with Ananya, and I will mute for a second and turn the microphone over to you. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Ananya, and I am a senior in high school. I live in California, and a special hobby of mine is knitting. I love knitting, and in STEM, I'm particularly interested in computer science and how it intersects with other fields like astrophysics, and so on.
Hi, I'm Shreya. I'm also a senior in high school, just like Ananya, and I go to school in near Princeton, New Jersey. A special hobby or interest of mine probably be hula hooping. I've been doing it since I was in like 2nd grade. Brief description of my STEM interests. I'm really interested in pursuing mechanical engineering in college, and one of my biggest hobbies is robotics.
Awesome, thanks, Shyla.
Sorry, my mic would not unmute. So I'm Shyla, and I'm from Spokane, Washington, and I'm a senior in high school, just like the other two girls. And I guess I could say my hobbies are sports. So I'm a 3-sport athlete. I do volleyball, basketball, and track. And then my interest in STEM started when I was in 7th grade. And at my high school, we had this program called the IST program. It's the Institute of Science and Technology. So essentially you start from there and you build your way up. So right now I'm taking a genomics class, and it's a 2-year research class. And I'm doing this study right now actually with COVID, and hopefully going to be taking a surveillance of water and being able to predict an outbreak in where I live. So it's a really exciting project, and I'm looking forward to like diving into it this year.
Fantastic. Amy?
Hi guys, I'm Amy. I am from Indiana, but I am currently a sophomore at Lipscomb University here in Nashville, Tennessee, and I am studying mechanical engineering. A special hobby or interest is I'm big into sports, just like Shyla. I played basketball and did track. And a brief description of STEM interest is that I am also a race car driver. So my interest in coming into mechanical engineering really came from being a race car driver and knowing that mechanical engineering and working on cars and being a driver, how that really incorporates with one another.
Very cool. I'm not sure if the phone number here, I just want to check. We have one person who hasn't come on yet who's on our panel. So is this phone number Giselle or no? Okay, so we'll move on. Renuka. Whoops.
Looks
Okay.
like Giselle's is on. I'm not
Okay.
sure though.
Is that you, Giselle, on the phone number?
No.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll skip over Janelle and we'll go we'll go to Renuka. Thanks.
Thank you, Dale. I'm not quite sure why I'm unable to turn on my camera, so I'm sorry about that, but I guess I'll just go over my little intro. So I'm a senior from Kentucky, and I am really passionate about medicine, and I hope to go into neuroscience. And I guess some things which I've been involved in high school are Health Occupational Students of America and Science Olympiad. I've been competing at the state and international level since my sophomore year. And I'm also really passionate about art, so STEAM, I guess, if you were to combine those two fields. And I've been involved in the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards. And yeah, I really love to paint and bake in my free time and roller skate. Those are like my three main hobbies. So yeah, it's a little bit about me.
Thank you. I'm going to invite you to start your video, but you can, if that works. I don't know if it'll even work. So as you can hear, we have 5 young women who are really into so many different things. STEM, and in many ways we'll hear more about how they're all related to STEM. I think that one of the things that I've always found interesting and exciting is the kinds of hobbies and interests that we have starting from young children. So I'm going to start out by asking Amy all about her race car driving, and how that shaped you and the career that you're pursuing today in engineering.
Yeah, so I first got involved with racing when I was 4 years old. It's been about 15 years, and the biggest thing that got me involved was that I have an older brother that was interested in racing and motorsports and all that. So I kind of grew up at a racetrack and with the sounds of engines and all that. It has really shaped me, who I am, and my career by pushing me to be, to persevere, my determination and work ethic. It's really been a hands-on experience. I have been able to work on cars and go-karts and all different kinds of things. So that is how I really got interested. And for a future career, I am currently working towards becoming a professional race car driver, such as IndyCar or one of those big names. But I know mechanical engineering is a very good backup plan.
That's fascinating. Just out of curiosity, sort of a raise of hands, are any of you on the phone interested in cars and driving? I think you can probably hit your, or you can just mention in the chat if you are. Let's just do it that way.
A little bit. Cool.
Yeah? Say a little more. You're a little bit what?
I just said it's kind of cool, I guess.
Okay, awesome. Ananya, let's hear a little bit about the ways you spend your free time and how it's helped you decide your future directions.
Well, I when I was little, I really enjoyed like building things and like Legos. I would have like this little Lego play set thing.
You know what, Ananya, it's a little garbled.
Which is really fun. But I mean things that I could do. And when I was in my engineering class at my school, so I decided to take engineering.
Is everyone else hearing garble? Hey, Ananya?
And it was just
Ananya?
move and do all these cool things. So I think like I spend my time. Okay. Can you guys hear me?
You're very garbled. I'm wondering if it's your microphone, maybe? I don't know. You were very garbled. We missed what you said.
Okay. Okay. So like from the very beginning?
I think so. Sorry.
Okay. Oh, that's okay. I was just saying that when I was little, I used to have like these Lego sets, like and I built a train station and oh man, I completely lost my flow. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna try disconnecting my headphones. But
I'll come
if you
back
guys
to
want to
you.
move on to some other,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll come back. That's fine. How about Shreya? I mean, one of the questions that even came in is, you know, how did you come to discover your interests? Did you ever doubt yourself? And if so, you know, what got you through that? Because I know you're interested in mechanical engineering and environmental ed, right? So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. I know this was always a really big concern of mine. When I was in freshman year, sophomore year of high school, even in middle school, and I would like attend family parties and things like that and get asked by the adults, like, you know, what do you want to do in college? And I would really never know. And there would always be people around me, 100% sure with, yeah, I'm set on medicine, or, you know, I'm set on doing computer science. I want to be a veterinarian. And it would stress me out for sure, not knowing exactly what I wanted to do. So something that I did realize is that what I want to pursue in college doesn't have to be necessarily the thing that I'm best at, or you know, have been doing for the past 12, 13 years of my life. Like a lot of people make it feel like it has to be. So just to talk a little bit about my two interests that are kind of different, mechanical engineering and environmental science. Mechanical engineering, my interest for that started with my involvement in robotics. So this is an activity that I've been taking part in for 12, 13 years, like I mentioned. In second grade or something, my mom, I can still remember, forced me to attend a Lego camp. And I still remember the day. I was in bed, didn't really want to get up or go anywhere. And her forcing me to go turned into something completely different. And I've definitely made one of the best memories ever, you know, sleepless nights with the robot, programming and building and competing. So I'm really thankful to that, because it's not something that I had known about if my mom hadn't, you know, just said, try something new, which is really important. With environmental science, it's a interest that I developed because of a club that I joined just 2 years ago in high school. So you can kind of see like how my interests are different, because one I've been doing for so many years and one I kind of just got into. But that just goes to show, you know, like you don't have to be doing it for so many years of your life, or you don't have to be 100% dedicated to it, because high school and middle school are really just about trying new things out. And I think that's really important.
I love that message. I think this idea of trying things out, and as a mom now of one in college and one out of college. I love hearing that moms can get some credit here, right? Although truthfully, it's great credit to you that you stuck with it and that you listened to her advice. But that's fantastic, and it sounds like you've made a lot out of that. Do you want to go back to Ananya? Would you like me to come back to you?
Yeah, I'm just gonna keep my camera off because I think that made everything a little bit better. I think my Wi-Fi just doesn't have the bandwidth to support both video and audio right now. But so yeah, I just like Shreya said, middle school and high school are like times to try new things, and I definitely tried doing a lot of new things. I went into like so many different things. I did art for like an entire year in middle school, but also since I was in 6th grade, I've been taking this engineering class at my school called Project Lead the Way, and I know that's not like an option that everybody has, but it was like an option that was provided to me. So that's like one of the reasons that I really got into like engineering and design and stuff like that. And I thought it was engineering is kind of like art. And it's like you can pull your creations off of the paper kind of. And so like, I feel like exploring new things and like in my free time pursuing engineering and STEM activities has really made me like more passionate about the subject. And like, even if it's not something that you like for example, I took this electrical engineering class in 11th grade, which was last year, and I did not understand anything. I had a lot of trouble in that class. But I think like I kept working hard and I got it in the end. And even though I didn't really enjoy the class, it's like that education, what I learned from that class has really like supplemented the rest of like what I'm interested in. So I know that I can use computer science in tandem with what I learned in like that electrical engineering class to do something cool, you know? So yeah, in my free time, I spend time like doing robotics. I spend time coding a lot. Yeah, and it's just what you choose to do in your free time doesn't really like dictate what your career is gonna look like or what you're gonna do in college or your interests. It's just something that you choose to do, something that you think is interesting, and just don't be afraid to explore.
Fantastic. I feel like your connection and your persistence has really been a great thing to call out here, because sometimes we have to do things we're not always so sure we're going to like very much. You also mentioned art, and I'm going to jump to Renuka, because I think this idea of STEM and STEAM, you know, science, technology, engineering, math, science, technology, engineering, art, and math. There's been discussion about why is the A in there, and I think you just sort of called a little bit out reason why, you know, that creativity, that those ways that there were some really great connections for you. And I know Renuka, I thought you might like to also speak to this a bit, because I know you're a cartoonist, and I would love to hear how you think art and science has intersected for you.
Yeah, thank you, Dale. So just in my everyday daily activities and my extracurricular activities, I just felt like, you know, both my interests regarding the STEM field and my interests regarding, you know, the field of art, they're just always intersecting. Like Ananya was talking about, you know, there's this creative element to science and scientific problem solving. And, you know, I take several STEM courses at my school, and I also take art classes. And I feel like whatever I gain out of these science classes, I'm able to, you know, implement them into my art projects and art classes, because it's just kind of like that spatial understanding and like the idea of like, you know, viewing art differently. Like you get that from science, and I just feel like they're so interrelated. And also just in my activities, I remember, I guess if I were to give like specific examples, I'm part of an environmental science club. So we did a project where we created rain barrels, so where we designed rain barrels, and we had to pay attention to not only artistic elements, but also like, you know, engineering elements when making these rain barrels. And not only like regarding the, you know, like the visual art element, but more like speech and like, you know, presenting. Like once I was invited to give a TEDx talk at our state university, and I talked about how, like in science, it's not only about like, you can, many of like the things that you learn in science, like like the problem solving ideas that I was talking about earlier, these also help you, speak better, think better, like when you're on the spot and you're giving this TED talk to people, and it can be really intimidating. But, I guess like the whole concept of problem solving, which stems out of science, can be, applicable to all these other fields such as art. So that's why I really think they're interrelated.
I think that whole idea of giving TED Talks and other talks and that kind of thing and having that confidence, we're going to come back to that later, because I think that that can be a really scary thing, young and old, it's just.
It really was. It really was.
Impressive. But yeah, we'll come back and hear more about that, I think, and be sure that, as we go forward, it's a small group, feel free to, jump in. But I do want to get back to Shyla and also recognize that here she is, she's generated interest in genomics in 7th grade. And who would have guessed that here we are in the middle of a pandemic and that she's doing some work related to that. So how has interest in STEM affected your daily life, Shyla?
Oh, it's 100% like affected everything I do. So I said it's a 2-year project class, and last year I did a study of they're called C. elegans. They're like these little microscopic worms. It's really fascinating to like watch little worms move under a camera, but when you look at your like little plate, you're like, where are they? So it's really cool. And I was essentially trying to reverse a gene in the worm that would essentially cure cancer in like a simple terms without going into depth. And then so this year I could either continue this project or I could choose a different one. And every year when I've like done a project, I'm like, I want to do it to something that's relating to what's happening in the world. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in the middle of a pandemic. So what better time and opportunity to spark? So my research teacher has been helping me, and it's definitely really difficult because I can't go into my classroom. I can't go into my lab. I can't set up my labs. It's been a lot of just research and planning and a bunch of methods and proposals, or like fingers crossed hoping we can get into the lab like this next month. But we just had an outbreak at one of our schools in the area because they're trying to do like a hybrid system. So it might have to come to a point where it's like my teacher's going to have to lab for me and I'm going to have to watch. So it's like, it's hard to manage so many things at once, especially being a senior and doing college applications. It's like a lot on your plate, but you just have to like kind of prioritize what you need to do first. Like you take it one step at a time. Like for my project right now, it's like I got my research. I know I have a basis of understanding that I could explain to someone in depth. And then now I have like these methods. I have to test these methods. And if that doesn't work, then I just try again. Like I just keep trying until I get somewhere. Like I just have to get somewhere.
Well, you brought up, I'm going to jump to a question that we had from someone online, was a teacher, and she was asking, what advice do you have to keep you all as students engaged? What should a teacher do? And I think that's especially hard. I know I helped my own daughter when she was virtual in college doing a biology lab, and biology lab online is a lot different than a biology lab in the space, right? And in her case, it was an ecology thing where they're doing water samples. So it's crazy. It's a very different experience. So do you have some advice? And I'll open that up to everyone after you respond, Shyla, just if there's some advice.
Yeah, so I'm also taking a college level physics class right now. So obviously there's like a lot of labs involved with that to understand the basis of physics. So right now for genomics, we haven't really dove into the labbing, so there's nothing I can speak towards there. But for physics right now, my teacher's actually been really good of like a basis understanding. So with labs that we can't do in class, we either demonstrate them over a video with his TA, or he will literally give us a stimulation online that's the exact replica of the lab we would be doing, which is very helpful. It's like hands-on through a computer hands-on. So it's really like, because we've had to talk about standing waves and like transverse waves, and being able to see that even online where I can't see it in person has been really effective in my like learning and understanding.
Let me open that up to some of the rest of you. Just feel free to jump in terms of your virtual experience in STEM learning.
Yeah, I think
Currently taking an anatomy class, and you know, I'm taking AP chemistry too, so that's a really lab intensive class. But I was actually noticing that you know, for AP chemistry, like our teacher just completely, you know, took out the whole hands-on learning experience. And he was like, you know, he would just film these videos on YouTube of him performing the lab. And I kind of felt that we were missing out on this, you know, since it's such a key aspect of AP chemistry. But then my anatomy teacher, so he actually found this online lab, virtual lab platform where you can actually, you have this microscope and you have all these different tools which you can experiment with. And the cool thing about it is that it's not just like you go to the microscope and you get your samples and you analyze them. There's also like the little in between, such as, you know, like cleaning the slides, and you know, when you're using like a higher magnification, you have to like put in like a saline solution, I think. And like there's so many like in betweens, you know, which are like essential for having this, you know, proper lab experience, and it just covers everything. And that was just, I thought that was just really cool given the COVID situation and not having access to the lab equipment.
Interesting that you had that comparison, right, where you could see how there's different ways of doing this and which ones are a little bit more engaging. Was it Shreya? Were you going to jump in? Somebody was going to jump in earlier. I think it was Shreya.
I think it was Ananya.
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, it was me.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, my teacher, we were doing, I'm also in a college level physics class, and we're learning about like electrostatics right now. So we needed to create like an electric field. And so instead of making it like really like difficult and like making us get wires and stuff to create an electric field, she sent us conductive paper. So it was just like a piece of paper that she tucked into the textbook when we were getting our textbooks and stuff like that. And so it was just like a piece of paper, but it's conductive like a breadboard would be. So it was really interesting how we could use like conductive ink pens and stuff like that with conductive paper to create that electric field. And then we use like metal push pins as like electrodes. So it was just like a lot of household items and then just like this special paper. And I thought that was really interesting, like how it was just like so convenient to do it. And like, yeah.
Fantastic. Did I get everyone? I do want to call out also that we have a couple of elementary students on the call, and I'm just going to throw out a quick question about elementary school, because I think that we've talked a little bit about high school, but I'm wondering if you can think back to elementary school and if you can share some of the things that you thought were both most challenging and exciting about elementary school experiences and your science experiences. Sorry, that's a totally, you know, took a different turn there, but I feel like it'd be really nice to share. I know one of the students mentioned that they're in 5th grade. So if we could think about upper elementary, what do you remember about that? Just a couple of you.
I remember from elementary school, at my elementary school, once you went to 5th and 6th grade, they gave you like almost classes where you would switch from period to period to get you ready for middle school. And I remember in elementary school taking basically pre-algebra in 6th grade. And I just think being so young and be able to push yourself to take a middle school level class, especially in elementary school, is really amazing. And just watching everyone develop, because as you're in elementary school, you're growing. Like your brain is going to continue to grow until you're like in your early 20s. And it's really fascinating to watch how your brain is taking on these hard problems at such a young age. And it's great to see like people like just being so young to be able to solve these middle school and high school problems. Like kids do this now all the time, all the days, like all the time nowadays. My words got a little jumbled there, but it's really fascinating. I just think as like a young age, like don't be scared to push yourself either. Like it's, yes, you will mess up and that is so okay. Like I mess up all the time on a daily basis. Like it is okay to mess up and it's okay to take those scary classes.
I definitely agree with that. When I was in fourth and fifth grade, there was this thing that I did called EPGY. I don't remember what it stands for anymore, but it was like a math class, and it was super cool because I was learning about like the sectors of a circle, and I had no idea what a sector of a circle was. But as I continued to like do those problems, it was really interesting. And like Shyla said, don't be afraid to challenge yourself. If there are opportunities like that, like take them, even if you don't know like what EPGY stands for or what sectors of a circle are. It's okay because you'll learn, and that's like the entire point of like challenging yourself.
I think it's
I just
also really
like that.
important just to,
Oh, were you saying something?
no, go
You
ahead.
can go ahead.
Okay. I think just to echo both Shyla and Ananya, I think it's really important to use middle school as an opportunity to try as much as you can. Um, yeah, like take challenging classes, but like also don't be afraid to fail. Like you do really bad on your first two tests, like whatever it may be. Just keep trying because middle school and elementary, especially upper elementary, is when you could when you have the freedom to do that. So also, which brings me to another really important thing is like even outside of school, just try to do as much as you can. So it could be like random things that don't even correlate with each other. Let's say it's doing like volleyball, basketball, but then also like attending this random talk at a local college about like anatomy or something like that. Like it doesn't have to be something that you are interested in. It could just be some random things um that you don't even never even heard about. Because I know when I was in upper elementary, once again, my mom used to take me to a lot of professor talks about things that I have not even heard of. It was like discussing black holes, and I didn't know the first thing about black holes. So just sitting there and listening to it is kind of what made me a more STEM-minded person. And it sounds like a really small effect in the bigger picture of things, but it really did just help me understand a little bit more about science, even if I had no clue what was going on.
And what's interesting is these days, right, there's a lot of virtual talks out there that we can go to anywhere that you didn't have a chance to go to before, right? So even if you don't have a mom that drags you along to talks, there may be some wonderful outlets. Can some of you other talk about, switch a little bit, because you mentioned, Trey, about taking chances, about taking risks. I know we have a question in the box about, have you always felt comfortable taking a chance and making mistakes? You know, what's that felt like over time for you?
I just wanted, oh, sorry. I just wanted to say that, I was going to say earlier that it's just crazy how, if I think back to like 7, 8 years ago when I was an upper elementary school student, the amount of resources that I had and the extracurricular clubs that I had access to. And then today, with the resources just keep growing, and like students just have a better understanding of technology, and we just didn't know how to utilize technology like to the level that students know now. And I just feel like they have so many opportunities, and that, bringing in what you're talking about, taking risks, and what Shreya was talking about earlier, I think especially now, like they should really be willing to get out of their comfort zone because of the resources that they have. And just, it's just, they're getting more and more like opportunities available to them now, especially, and they should definitely utilize it. And in order to do so, they should be willing to take risks.
So what I was going to say along the lines of the have you always felt comfortable? I have not always felt comfortable taking chances. There are some chances that terrify me to death about taking, but that's just a part of life, and you are not always going to be put in a comfortable position. College for me has been full of a lot of uncomfortable things, and like meeting new people and being in a new city and state, but failing is a part of your success. And I think that you have to push your limits, and you have to get out of your comfort zone to be able to truly understand your potential.
Great advice. Great advice.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Oh, Ananya, did you want to say something? You can go ahead. I'll go after you.
Okay, thank you. Well, I just wanted to say I think I agree with Amy that you always have to like push yourself and try to go outside of your comfort zone. Um, I just wanted to like tell you guys about like an experience that I had personally. Um, I was like very, very shy in elementary school. Like I couldn't do anything without being scared that I was gonna like step on someone else's feet, you know? Um, and I think that that goes away when you start realizing that like if you keep wondering like what your like the effect of what your actions are going to have on other people, and it's good to be conscious about that stuff, but if you're always so aware of other people, you're never going to be able to like get out there and take risks. And I think the first step to getting out of your comfort zone is understanding that like it's you have to like do things for yourself and not always for other people, you know? And that might be like kind of weird and deep, especially for those of you who are in elementary school right now. But don't be afraid to do something because someone else tells you that you can't, or because someone else has like a different opinion on it than you. So just get out there and like do what you want to do. I think that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think especially since we're talking about STEM today, um, when you're in upper elementary or elementary, middle school, even high school, it can be pretty daunting just knowing that, you might be the only girl in a class of 32 other guys. I know it was like that for me in a lot of my intro engineering classes in middle school and high school. And, there would always be the backhanded comments and things like that, and just like looking over that and then realizing like who you're doing it for yourself, and like taking that opportunity to be one of the only, like be proud that you're one of the only girls in that class, can be really empowering. And I know that's really hard when you're in middle school or high school, in beginning of high school, but one thing that does really help is surrounding yourself with people who have the same interests as you. I know a lot of the courage that I gained in talking to new people is because I did robotics, because I did XYZ club. And, I realized that I wasn't the only one going through things like that. I would talk about my experiences and I would talk about things that I failed at. And all of that together is just really helpful. Even though it doesn't seem like it, just seems like another club that you're joining. But like being surrounded by people who are interested in the same things as you can just be really, really motivating to get you through school and to find new experiences, honestly.
It's so important, right, to have a support structure, and it building that along the way is really critical. And I think one aspect of that is actually identifying mentors. And I know one of the things we talked about in advance of this call is having mentors, how to get them, what to do. I'd like maybe Anya could start, then Shreya, then everyone sort of jump in about the mentors you have had, how you've managed to get them, how that mentors have really played a role in your life.
Yeah, so there was I was doing this robotics camp kind of thing at Amazon one summer, and there was this really, really great lady, and she spoke to us about her career, and she's so fascinating. She graduated college at like not college, she graduated high school at 16. And then she's been working in the industry for so long. She worked at Apple, now she works at Amazon, and before that she's worked at like many, many other companies. So she was just kind of a really inspiring person. And after she gave like this panel talk, I really wanted to go up to her and I wanted to like say thank you and like introduce myself, but I was so scared to to go up to this really like inspiring woman. Like what would I even say to her? Like but the first thing that you need to do to like go up to someone and like ask them to be your mentor or just to introduce yourself is to not be afraid, because let me tell you something. People, like especially women in engineering, they understand that you're nervous, and they like yeah, they understand that you're nervous, and they understand like that you're struggling to like go up to them, and they will always, always, always answer your question. They're always very, very nice and very kind. So the first thing that you need to do is like, don't be scared. Just like build up your courage and go and ask them. And I promise it will be okay, and they will be very nice to you. And that's what happened with me too. I just kind of built up my courage, and I went up to her, and I just was like, hey, I'm Ananya. Like, I really enjoyed your talk. And she was like, hi, Ananya. And she gave me this huge hug. So yeah, so definitely don't be afraid. Just go up, and most of the time it will be like a positive answer.
Very cool.
I'm Uma. I just want to say something like that. The person who probably interested me most, he's the reason that I'm so interested in STEM and STEAM. He was my 6th grade science teacher. He was like a college professor, and he came to teach middle school just so he could get like some sort of degree to finish off something. And I don't even understand, but he just took me fishing one day, and he started talking about fish. And then we somehow started up like a conversation about space, and he just always had something interesting to say. And he's probably the reason that I was interested in science. And I didn't even like fishing, but I just went fishing so that I could talk to him. And I think it was really cool because he opened up so many new opportunities to me. Because he interested me in science, I met like a bunch of new people that had the same passions as me, and it was really cool.
Thanks, Uma, for sharing. That's fantastic. Love hearing that. Fishing.
I just wanted to, oh, sorry.
Go ahead. You're good.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to say that, you know, for so many people, their mentor is probably like a role model, or, you know, I've just been seeing that like many people, they look up to an older person naturally. But this summer, I was involved in an internship for an educational company. So this internship was actually like really widespread. So there were around like 2,000 high school students from around the world. So I had the opportunity to work with a 14-year-old girl. So she's younger than me, and she was at one point on the Forbes 30 under 30 list, and she was invited to the Jimmy Fallon show. So I just thought that was really cool, you know, how a 14-year-old has this capability to like, you know, do something of that scope. And it's just something like, I've never met anyone like that. And I was just really inspired, you know, just like a high school freshman who can do that and who's really just willing to put in effort. And like, it just showed me that if you're really willing to put in effort into what you're really passionate about, and like, you know, it just really depends on hard work and effort. And I was able to find that in her and implement that into my own life. And it was just really nice learning from someone who was younger than me and who did all that.
I love that, right? I mean, learning from people that are younger and older and having that opportunity to not just think about where you are in your space, but expanding. I mean, in some ways, having such a wide group on this call is just so exciting. And I hope more of you will feel free to jump in too, as we, you know, we really only have another 10 or 15 minutes. If you want to add chat, if you want to open up your mic, feel free to talk. Feel free to ask some questions. I'll throw that out now, and then we can come back with some other questions if there aren't any from all of you. Okay, well, we'll give you a second to think about it, and maybe we'll continue. I know one of the things that a couple of you have already mentioned, and many of you have had leadership roles in various organizations or committees, whatever. I think it's hard to be a leader, right? Some of you have talked about how some of you were shyer than others, or at least were, and maybe still are. Being able to sort of be up in front, do all this, and congratulations to all of you, because you're all very, very, very capable, obviously, of being able to share. And many of you who are on the call, you know, I guess you're all getting a little more comfortable, but it's so appreciated how transparent and open you are. But can you talk about some of the leadership roles that you might have had, and what leadership skills you may have started with, but maybe you needed to learn others to make you more effective? Can we start with maybe Renuka, because I know you've actually had positions that were chair of something committee, whatever, right?
So I was part of the Environmental Sustainability Club, like I mentioned earlier. And so my TED Talk, we had a TED Talk team. So this was, I briefly mentioned this earlier too. So this was around like spring 2019. So at our state university, they were hosting a TED Talk. So I chaired the TEDx event team. So it comprised of 3 to 4 students who were going to give talks that day. So we basically worked together, more than me kind of, telling them what to do and, like leading them. It's more like I kind of oversaw things and I just kind of let them contribute, and we kind of just helped each other. And I thought this was just a really beneficial leadership role for me, because I was, first I was in pressure to, run the whole show there. So that was good, having other people's input. And also it just, it helped me because I was also giving a speech that day. I was able to learn from other people, who obviously had like, a wide spectrum of experiences. Like I wasn't, for example, on the speech and debate team. So I was really new to this whole concept of speaking in front of large audiences. And I had students on my council who did speech and debate and other such public events earlier, and I was really able to learn from them. So I guess that's one of the great things about being a leader, that you get to know about the different perspectives and experiences of the group of students that you're leading. And I think that was just really enriching.
Thank you. Anyone else? I wanted to go, I have 2 more big questions that I want to ask. So, and we're getting close to time. My first is Discovery Center is a children's museum. We've been in Murfreesboro for over 30 years. I'm sure wherever you're located, there are probably museums, children's museums, science museums, art museums. Can you tell me how museums, if museums have played a part in your life and in your inspiration at all, and if so, what does that look like?
Yeah, well, I live near, well, we just call it like the Tech Museum. So, I live near the Tech Museum, and there are all of these like cool stuff always going on there. But I think one of the most influential like experiences that I've had in a museum was in San Francisco. I think it's called the California Academy of the Sciences or something like that. So I went there, and it was just so beautiful. They had this dome, and inside the dome they made it like kind of like it was really humid, and it was like kind of like a natural habitat kind of thing that they created inside of this dome. And there were just so many butterflies inside, and they would like land on you because they created this entire habitat for these butterflies. And it was just such a great experience. Like sometimes I have dreams of it still, like butterflies just landing on my face. And it was just a really great experience. And I was like, this is a science museum, and there are like all these beautiful things that I get to see. And I feel like I went there at a time where I was still like, STEM is just math and people who like sit down at their computer and just are like typing all day. And it was just really interesting to see how STEM could be used in so many other ways. And it was a very nice experience.
Wow, that's awesome. That's fantastic. Somebody else want to chime in, or? Oops.
I can't think of too many, science museums, but I've been to many engineering, architecture, and, artistic museums. I've been to a few in Nevada and California when I used to live back in California, but I can't quite remember the names. But I know they had like so many replicas of, these monumental buildings and, pieces of architecture. There was one for the Titanic, And it was just really cool to see how they had all these, the measurements and everything correct, and how they just replicated something so, which is so large and monumental and impressive. And it was just really cool. They had so many different ones. They replicated the World Trade Centers to the Twin Towers. So definitely not as big, but it was just really cool to see how they scaled it differently, but still looked so realistic. And that realism was just like really captivating. And that's what I really enjoyed about those museums.
Fantastic, thanks. Yeah, there's so many different kinds of opportunities, right? And and we're all different in how we respond to these things. So that's really interesting and exciting. What about challenges you faced? And this will be the last before I'll sort of ask you a parting message, but other challenges that you faced, and if so, how have you dealt with them? And maybe we can start with Amy.
Yeah, so one of the biggest challenges that I have faced has been in the world of motorsports, mainly because it is a male-dominant sport. There are not a lot of young women and young ladies that are coming up in it and that have recognized that, hey, I can do this too. I can show them that I am just as good, maybe a little better than some of these guys that have been racing. And so that has been a struggle to try to prove myself to them. And I have been able to accomplish that and gain the respect of fellow competitors and racers throughout the country. I've dealt with that, I'd say, more through just perseverance and determination. And I show that I'm a hard worker and that I just don't give up with a challenge. And so that is really a big thing. And I remember one of the panelists also said that it's daunting being maybe one of the only females in an engineering class or something like that. Being at Lipscomb University, we're a pretty small school, and so there's not that many females in the engineering department. We are seeing that gradually increase, which is amazing, but it's definitely also something that has been challenging, is being in a class with primarily males.
And have you found sort of your group, your support structure at Lipscomb?
Oh, definitely. Everybody here is unbelievable. The professors, all my fellow classmates, like, we're all here to support each other and help each other get through it.
Fantastic. Other challenges you want to address, or thoughts you've had, struggles?
I guess I could touch on one thing that I feel like is very important, especially for the girls that are going to be entering from a transition from elementary to middle school to high school, is I don't mean to make this super sad and stuff, but I had really bad depression when I was younger, and starting high school, I was very overwhelmed. I didn't have very many friends. There was lots of drama, and it was just so overwhelming all at once. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get through high school when I have all these problems, and I just want to get through it. And I feel like it's really important just to take one day at a time. So as doing STEM, and with STEM and having to face all your outside problems, it can be a lot to handle sometimes, because sometimes those outside problems can seem bigger than what you're trying to focus on. And it's just really important to essentially just take a day at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself. If something's not working, then you do a new thing. STEM is all about new things and learning things. And in a way, STEM was my escape for everything and helped me get out of that state. That is really important for me. And I don't know if any of you girls, STEM could be your escape. Just think, what can I do to get out of this moment? And there's so many opportunities ahead of you. And I just think that's really important to remember. Don't let your outside problems just consume you. You want to take your day, enjoy, this is your prime time, have fun, live your life to the fullest.
Wow, that's awesome message. And I think that message has come through from all of you so clearly. This idea of stick with it, take risks, don't be afraid to make mistakes. What's the worst that happen is you make mistakes, right? And it's you go forward and you move forward. And just being able to think about throwing yourself into something. And thank you so much for sharing that, Shyla, too. We were going to, and I think in some ways you've just done the first step of that, but feel free to join in again. We were going to close really by having you all really share one suggestion or one piece of advice or something you wish someone had told you. You know, so I'll just open the floor. If you feel you've done that already, fine. If not, I feel like you all are have so much to offer. So feel free to dive in and share some of this, and we'll then get close to the hour.
Thank you, Dale. So I would just say, basically, like, the number one piece of advice, especially if you're a middle school student entering your freshman year of high school. So as a freshman in high school, I was already starting to feel overwhelmed by everything about college, about, staying ahead and, preparing for this college application process. So I would just start joining any clubs which were open, which were accepting members, without really paying attention to whether or not it fits my interests and, like, my niche and, like, my career choices. So, it's fine if you don't know what you want to do early on in your high school career, and it's totally okay to try out new clubs and new extracurricular activities. But if you feel like at any point that you're getting overburdened by these, and that you feel that you need to be burdened by these, and that, this is just something you need to deal with in order to look quote unquote impressive for college applications, which many students, especially freshman students, believe, that's not how it should be. It should be more like, it's fine maybe if you do take on some, like, rigorous courses and extracurriculars, but don't let it be something that, just changes your environment so that, like, you don't have any time for yourself or your activities, because colleges care about you as a person. So you need to have, still make sure that you're carrying out your interests, because they're equally important as your school commitments. So make sure you find that perfect balance.
Thanks, Renuka.
Kind of going along with that, for my advice for specifically, like, high schoolers coming into college is that, yes, it's going to be hard, and yes, it's going to throw some curveballs at you, but you are stronger than you think, you are smarter than you think, and no matter what, you're going to have all these doubts in your head about, is this really what I want to choose for the rest of my life? Like, I've had those doubts and stuff, but those doubts will come into your mind. And so the important thing is that you can do anything you set your mind to. And if it's something you're truly passionate about, then go for it and make it happen, because the only limit is your own mind.
Fantastic.
And just real quick, because I know we talk a lot about high school. I know that we have some little youngins in here as well. And I just wanted to let you guys, like, just have fun. I know we're spewing at you a lot of different information. We all have very different lives, and they seem quite chaotic as it may sound, but just have fun. Like, just dive into what's going to interest you. Don't stress, like, oh my gosh, all these girls do all these great things. Like, what if I can't get to that point? Like, don't compare. The big thing is, don't compare yourself. Don't ever do that. You just do what you need to do, and you do what interests you. The biggest thing is, like, comparison. Like, always growing up, like, I would look at all these people and all these older girls, and I'm like, I want to be like them. But just be yourself. Like, you want to be yourself. You don't want to ever be a replica of anyone else.
Oh my goodness. I wish you were all in my lives when I was this age. It's just wonderful. Who have we missed? I've lost track now. Is there anyone else that wanted to give their last sort of parting message?
I would just definitely reiterate what I said before. I think it's really important not to stress yourself too much about what am I going to do in college, especially seeing that there are a lot of middle school and early high school girls here. 100% knowing what your interest is really not as important as you think. If you think everyone around you has their lives figured out, trust me, they don't. That's something that I've realized over the past 4 years. definitely like what Shyla said, don't compare yourself to others. It can really knock you down and like get you into a toxic mindset. And I've noticed myself grow more and accomplish the most things, you know, when I'm doing things that I want to do, doing things that I'm not really sure where I'll end up with, but um, just trying new things. So yeah, basically what everyone else said. I don't really have anything new to offer to the table, but try new things, be confident, and don't forget that you're doing this for you and no one else.
Really quickly, I just wanted to say, I think I'm younger than most of you, but just hearing you all talk, you guys are seriously incredible. You guys have done so much. And like, I don't even know y'all. I live in the middle of nowhere, Tennessee. And I just think it's so cool to hear different experiences from so many empowering young women. And I just want to wish y'all luck in your other years of high school or college and whatever. And yeah.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Uma. It's so nice to hear from you. And I know I've been getting some questions from Destiny. We've got some other folks that have been talking. And so I will just say a huge thank you to Ananya, Shreya, Shyla, Amy, Renuka. You've been fantastic. I can't tell you how much we appreciate your openness and your advice and your incredible passion for both STEM and living in general and being the best you can be. So very much appreciate it. Please be sure to, plug into our Tennessee STEAM Festival that's happening until tomorrow. It's been 10 days here in Tennessee, or the Tennessee Girls Collaborative. We'd love to have you involved. And for those of you on the call, the Tennessee Girls Collaborative does not yet have a Girls Advisory Board. Many of these girls, not all of them, many of them are on the National Girls Advisory Board, but we would love to talk with you about the possibility of helping us out as we think about the best way to help girls in the future and help support girls in science, technology, engineering, art, and math as an interest, hobby, or as a career, all of those things. It's just would be lovely to have you. So I want to thank you all for taking the time to come to this, for the openness and passion shown by both the panelists and the participants. It's been really nice to have you. I hope you'll come visit us if you're in Murfreesboro, Tennessee at Discovery Center. And I want to wish you a great rest of your weekend. Thanks for coming.